It's interesting, 10 years ago, I probably wouldn't have admitted to enjoying iris and fragrances. It took me a while to enjoy iris and powdery fragrances, all because of one fragrance. And it's a fragrance I speak about quite frequently. Can you guess which fragrance that is? Yes, it's Dior Homme Parfum. Absolutely love it. I love the Iris Orris combo in that fragrance. I love its powderiness, and it's a fragrance that I really, really, really enjoy. In fact, it's my favorite fragrance. Overall, niche and designer, I consider that to be my #1 favorite fragrance. That's why I enjoy iris in fragrances. So you guys have been asking me to do an updated iris list, and that's what I've got for you today. Find out about this list coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's Sebastian. We're talking about iris in fragrances, Iris Orris. Do you enjoy this note in fragrances? What are your favorite Iris Orris fragrances? If you don't know, they use the root of the iris to create the iris note. So it's a long process and it's a very expensive ingredient. It takes years to get the note because they have to age it and things like that. And it's a powdery note. It's somewhat vegetal. It can become musky. It is floral, but it's not your typical floral note, obviously, because they're not using the actual flowers. And again, it took me a long time to appreciate it, but I absolutely love it. Thanks to this wonderful fragrance. Do you enjoy Dior Homme Parfum? Have you seen or heard me speak about this fragrance? Do let me know. Put a comment down below. But today in this video, I've got more modern iris fragrances. The usual suspects are not here. The fragrances in this list are, as I said, modern and from within the last 6-7 years. So a lot of new ones, but going back around 6-7 years. So let's go ahead and get started with the first fragrance. Going to the house of Room 1015, Sonic Flower, this one right here. So this house has become a favorite house of mine, really enjoyed it. And I had Mike, the guy behind the brand, here in the studio, and we did a video together and spoke about the fragrances from this house. And this came out last year. It's definitely a really solid release. And it's a Iris Orris focused fragrance. It's called Sonic Flower. And in addition to the Orris iris note, we've got carrot seeds, pink pepper, musks, jasmine petals, ambroxan, and cashmere wood. So it's a combo of musky notes and also the powdery notes. Orris and carrot, they kind of complement one another. So in the end, they kind of smell similar, but also kind of vegetal. So there's some actual spices in here of pink pepper as well. And a bit of a floral touch with the jasmine. But you know what? When I wear this one, I get a light fruity touch. But in the end, it's a really gorgeous fragrance. Definitely a really nice airy wear of an iris fragrance. Powdery for sure. It's not uber vegetal where sometimes Iris Orris can go, but really nicely balanced fragrance, wonderful to wear, and called Room 1015. I think this is a Jerome Epinay creation. Wonderful fragrance. Let me know if you've sampled that one. Are you a fan of it? Did you catch my video with Mike of Room 1015? Put a comment down below so I can find out. But moving on to one of the most luxurious iris fragrances ever made. Although this is a recreation, this is JACQUES Lyre de Fat, this one right here. So this is the Eau de Parfum version, not the Parfum version. The Parfum version is extremely expensive, but the Eau de Parfum version, actually, I kind of like a little more than the Parfum version, and it's not as expensive, obviously, as the Parfum version is. They've recreated this really amazing fragrance that was launched years ago, and I think they did a great job with the perfumer they've worked with on this. It's iris butter, bourbon vetiver, violets, peaches, carnation, violet leaves, Turkish rose, bergamot. This does go classic. It does have a vintage vibe. The Sonic Flower is very modern, but here we're going back in time. And I enjoy, vintagey fragrances, and this is definitely that kind of a fragrance. And a little goes a long way with this Eau de Parfum, even though we're not playing around with the Parfum version, which is highly concentrated. This to me is really great as well with the longevity and things like that. But if you like a classic leaning iris fragrance, paying tribute to the original, going back in time, try Lyre de Fat in the EDP version. Wonderful offering from that house. It's definitely really, really solid. But moving on to the house of Les Eaux Primordiales. This is Iris Palladium, recently featured in Scent Club Mystery Box. And it's a great take on iris, more airy, spicy, aromatic, and a bit musky as well. And there's some sweet undertones as well with vanillic touches. And it might hint at something like the DNA of Dior Homme Parfum, but it's very faint. It's not necessarily like something that's an alternative to it. You can consider it an alternative, but it won't remind you too much of Dior. But it's a really, really, really great fragrance here. You've got these kind of aromatic, spicy touches mixed in with the powderiness of the iris. And then there's the spices as well that come in, and the light vanillic touches under there as well, with some resins and ambery accords thrown in. It settles down to kind of a creamy sandalwood, and of course the Dior Homme Parfum or the Dior Homme DNA had that sandalwood in there as well. So it makes for a very cozy wear. This is really, really cozy, a bit intimate, but really wonderful. If you haven't tried it, do try it. It's Iris Palladium from the house of Les Eaux Primordiales. So this next one is a house called ASTRA. This is Betelgeuse. I actually did a video of this house with Joe. If you haven't caught it, please go catch it. These are fragrances inspired by stars, I believe. So Beetlejuice, not the Beetlejuice film, obviously. But wonderful, really wonderful creation. If you like the fragrance Iris Torrefi from the house of Guerlain, this is kind of sort of like that idea. It has coffee mixed in with the powdery touches of the iris. There's also osmanthus, coriander, oak moss with a light fruitiness. And remember I mentioned in room 1015, I'm getting a little bit of a fruitiness. There's nothing in there that gives me a fruity actual touch, but when I wear it, I get that. Here, we do have the osmanthus, which does create a bit of the fruitiness that you get from this. But in the end, it's mostly about that iris and coffee. Together, it's a great combo. It's an unusual combo, but really does work. And so definitely worth trying here. If you haven't tried this one, try and seek it out. It's Betelgeuse from the house of ASTRA. Let me know if you're familiar with that house, and go catch the video I did with Joe doing a profile of that house. I think you'll learn a lot. So in this video, you're discovering a lot of smaller houses like this next one from Armenia. This is VOSKANIAN Parfums Iris Boisé. This to me is like iris in the rawest form, but it smells really, really, really wonderful. It does have iris with violet, so it does have a bit of a vintage vibe as well. Whenever I have violets in fragrances, it tends to go vintagey to me. But in addition to the iris and violet, both notes very powdery. They've also thrown in carrot seeds, another note that creates this kind of an irisy combo. But you've got lots of woods in here as well, like cedarwood, vetiver, patchouli, eventually getting to a musky, ambery, tonka base. It might come off a bit simplistic, but in the end, it's just like a raw form of iris, or Orris in this case. That's what I get with this one, and it's very buttery and smooth. So if you haven't tried or discovered this house, do seek them out. They're available here and there, and a great collection of fragrances. Very indie niche artisanal fragrances. But moving on to the house of XERJOFF, this is definitely a great fragrance from the house of XERJOFF. It's Apollonia, but also it's a personal fragrance. This is definitely close to the skin, and it wears close to the skin as well. But I like these kind of fragrances once in a while. It's very, very cozy and comforting, you know? White musk, orris, and white flowers. The combination is really, really great. And the bottle is so super gorgeous as well, as you can see. Really nicely done bottle. Again, the way the bottle is, the colors, that's how it wears on me. Very angelic, a bit ethereal, like you're floating in space kind of a thing. You know, it's musks and orris and white flowers. Angelic and pure, truly gorgeous. This is XERJOFF's Apollonia. If you don't know that one, please find out about it. I mean, check it out, because I highly recommend it. It's not one of their beasts, by the way. So if you're looking for that, you're not going to get that. As I said, it's personal. It's closer to the skin. Moving on to a smaller French house called MARIEJEANNE. This is Iris Pallida, this one right here. So I really like this fragrance for the inclusion of hazelnuts. When you're wearing this iris fragrance, you get a kind of a bit of a nutty gourmand effect with the fact that it has hazelnuts. With the Betelgeuse, we have the coffee. Here we have the hazelnuts, really unique combo. And for me, sometimes when they sweeten up the iris and they do add additional kind of gourmand notes, like in this case the hazelnuts or the coffee in the other one, it creates for a gourmand vibe in a fragrance. And I do enjoy my gourmand fragrances, and this kind of goes in that direction. So it's Orris butter, Orris absolute, sandalwood, labdanum, hazelnut, patchouli, cashmeran, ambroxan, and rose. It has ambery touches when it's drying down, very woody, and of course the gourmand touches of the hazelnuts with the Orris butter and the Orris absolute. So this is an Orris bomb. So good. Really, really great fragrance, and fairly underrated house. If you haven't tried this, do try it. It's Iris Pallida from the house of MARIEJEANNE. And this fragrance I've actually spoken about here and there, and I've also Instagrammed about it. I like this one. It's a Dominique Ropillon creation with Jean-Louis Suizac, both at IFF. This is called Coup d'Etat by Miles WAMBAUGH. And this gives me Dior Homme vibes as well. Once again, Dior Homme Intense, maybe Dior Homme Dior Homme and Dior Homme Intense rather than Dior Homme Parfum. It doesn't come off as thick as Dior Homme Parfum, but I like those vibes that I get with it when I'm wearing this one. It's iris, geranium, lavender, cardamom, vanilla, patchouli, and cypriol. And I feel like there's a bit of sandalwood in here as well. I like this bottle too. What do you think? What do you think of this bottle? Only problem is it's a bit difficult to spray with this bottle, but I really like the design. Really great bottle design. So that is Miles WAMBAUGH Coup d'Etat Iris in the style of Dior Homme. If you haven't tried it, do catch that and see if you can find a bottle. So the next fragrance we're talking about is JUSBOX's Visionary Eye, another Dominique Ropillon creation. Back to back. I didn't even realize I was putting these two fragrances back to back, both created by the same perfumer. He does do some wonderful work with iris. I think this is iris and orris, lavender, wormwood, cinnamon, musk, sandalwood, vanilla, thyme. It's very aromatic and spicy, and the wormwood gives me that kind of green, spicy booziness that I really like in that note. It's a favorite note of mine. In fact, it's a really great note, and I love consuming things that feature like wormwood, spices like anise and licorice and things like that. So the addition of it against the powdery iris is really, really great. It creates for this kind of fusion of a powdery, boozy drink, you know, because I really love wormwood or absinthe type drinks, as I said. Here we've got a lot of aromatics and spices. So you've got this kind of a green effect against the kind of like the floaty, effervescent kind of the powderiness of the iris note. It's a really wonderful offering, inspired by David Bowie, I believe. This is a Visionary Eye from the house of JUSBOX. Up next, going to the house of Maison Violet, it's TANAGRA. So recently I spoke about the bottle changes of this house, and this is not a fragrance I spoke about in that video or in that portion of that video, but definitely one of the best from this house. This is a fragrance created by Nathalie Lorson. So are a lot of the other fragrances from this house. And it's a very airy, light, ethereal, effervescent kind of a take on iris. Iris is here. It's the star. It's additional notes of tangerine, musk, vetiver, cedar, peony, jasmine, freesia, and pear light fruitiness. This does also have a little bit of the effect of Dior Homme. Once again, not identical, not a dupe. It hints at it, but goes into kind of a floral, fruity direction with all the iris that's in here. It's a great scent. If you like the idea of a floral, fruity take on iris, this is TANAGRA from the house of Maison Violet. Next, going to the house of L'Artisan Parfumeur, Eerie de Gris. So Eerie de Gris is a vegetal take on iris. This has peas, the note of peas that you would consume, the little round things. Lots of peas, so it's green, it's vegetal, mixed in with iris and bergamot. So in the end, as I was saying earlier, iris does have a vegetal touch. For me, it has this kind of vegetable-y, vegetaliness. So you need to add some sweet kind of notes, ambery notes to kind of bring it out and make it a little more balanced. But I kind of like that vegetal quality. And here, with the fact that they have peas in it, they're bringing out the vegetal touches as well, in addition to what the peas smell like. So it's got some spice, and it's got this greenness in here for sure, and some freshness from the bergamot. It might come off a bit simplistic, but definitely if you like the idea of peas with iris, try L'Artisan's Eerie de Gris. That is a creation by Quintin Biche. Moving on to the house of Amouage, it's Opus 5, Woods Symphony, a fragrance created by Jacques Cavalier. Now, this is an older fragrance. I'm featuring it here because, as I said, I was featuring more modern ones, more recent ones. I'm featuring it because they redid it and put it in this bottle. But this had come out in the original Opus collection bottles from a long time ago. So it's Orris Absolute, Rum, Orris Concrete, Jasmine, Rose, Oud, Civet, Dry Woods. There's a little bit of a sweaty effect happening here, but it's an overdose of loads of, powdery touches from the Orris or the iris note, along with kind of like light booziness from the rum. So in the end, you have some floral touches that come in as well. Does it get animalic? To me, it doesn't really come off very civety. Maybe it's the civet that's creating a bit of a sweatiness, but I thought I was getting some cumin along the way. And I think the cumin effect that I'm getting is coming from the dry woods and, when it's drying down with the oud note. But I think it's a great solid take on, this kind of a powdery iris fragrance. And definitely not the style of Jacques Cavalier. I think this is something completely different. Although he does do some great work with ouds and stuff as well. So this is Wood Symphony from the house of Amouage. Let me know if you're familiar with that one. Next, going to the house of Fleur, it's Father Figure, this one right here. So we've got a figgy, fruity take on powdery iris. It's a great combo. It really does work. It's figs, iris, vanilla, cassis, orris root, water lily, jasmine, musk, patchouli, leaves, sandalwood. In the end, it's a fig fragrance, but it's overdosed with lots of iris, orris notes in here. So it creates for a very powdery effect. The fig in here, I think, is a nice combo of the leaves and also the fruits, because I do get a fruitiness and also the greenness of the figs, and obviously it's green as well, as you can see. So it does have a green effect. But in the end, I like this fusion of the overdose of iris with the fig. I mean, the fig note is a really, really great note. It's a really beautiful fruity note, but combining it with the orris makes for a really wonderful wear. This is, I can't remember the perfumer off the top of my head, but I think he did a great job on this one. This is Father Figure. But moving on to the house of Maison Crivelli, it's Iris Mollicon. This is a great fragrance. In fact, it might be one of my top 5 iris fragrances. I absolutely love it. But you know, lately it's reminding me of Italian leather from the house of Memo Paris. You guys get the similarities? It's different, but then it reminds me of it. And it also reminds me of Concrete from Comme des Garçons. But in the end, this is cypress, mastic resin or lentisque note, galbanum, orris butter, mimosa, vanilla, leather, amber, musks. The leather combo here is really, really great. And I think it's this greenness from the galbanum that is connected with iris and leather that's kind of reminding me of Memo Paris's Italian leather. Not smelling identical, but there is hints of it. But still, really, really great fragrance from the house of Maison Crivelli. I really love it. It's Iris Mollicon. Let me know if you're a fan of that one or any of the fragrances I spoke about so far. So up next, going to the house of Atelier Materi, it's Iris Ebene. This one right here. Are you guys a fan of this house? I think they do some great work. If you haven't tried this house, please do. This is a leathery take on a very sexy orris iris note. I really, really love it. So it's leather with suede notes. So it's a suede leather, effect here happening against the iris. And I think iris really, does really wonders with the leathery notes. I see it quite often. Of course, we have it right here with your own parfum. So this is, again, leather with a suede leather, iris, peppercorn, sandalwood, Peru balsam, musk, and allspice. The peppercorn note comes off really, really prominently here. And it really works great with the butteriness of the iris that's in here and then the suede butteriness that's in here as well. Eventually, it's very creamy when it's drying down with the sandalwood, and you do have a balsamic effect when it's drying down as well. And of course, it does get musky, but it's such a great, great fragrance. Really wonderful. Wonderful to wear and super sexy. If you like iris, you got to check this one out. Atelier Materi, this is Iris Ebene. All these fragrances are approved by me, but you're probably going to like one over the other, so test these out if you're into iris. But the next fragrance I'm talking about is Théo Cabannel's Oh La La. This one right here, Oh La La. Really, really great take on iris from this side. And this time we're also going with hazelnuts, so it's a bit gourmand-esque. And so I like the addition of hazelnuts. What do you guys think of hazelnuts against iris? It really kind of, like the iris really does bring out the nuttiness of the hazelnuts. I love eating hazelnuts. But this is orris, hazelnuts, sandalwood, tonka, white musks, saffron, tobacco. So when they add the saffron in here, we're getting leathery touches with this one as well. I think the leathery aspect against orises are always a given. You're going to see it quite often. And here they've done a great job, but it kind of goes gourmand with the hazelnuts. Really, really wonderful. So check that out. It's Oh La La from the house of Théo Cabannel. Are you familiar with that house, guys? Let me know. Put some comments down below. They do have some really great offerings. They've been amping up with their more modern takes, but it's a bit more of a classic house on if you haven't really discovered that house. But moving on to the house of Penhaligon's, this is the omniscient Mr. Thompson right here. So this might come off a bit like inspired by Dior Homme or Dior Homme Parfum, but to me it's so different. I like that there's a hint of it, but in the end it's got a kind of a weird milkiness that is kind of addicting, like you want to smell more of it. So it's orris, pink pepper, sesame seeds, vanilla, and leather. But when you wear this one, there's a custardy, milky effect happening against all these different notes. The sesame seeds, I think, in this are really, really key and gives you that kind of an effect, I believe. Not necessarily nutty, but more creamy, smooth, and, you know, custard milkiness against the Orris's butteriness. But really, really great fragrance. I think they've done a great job. It's kind of a gourmandesque, but once again, not full-on gourmand. And here they've brought out the kind of the sweeter gourmand effect from the Orris note. But wonderful creation, I think. This is the Omniscient Mr. Thompson from the house of Penhaligon's. Then we've got a fragrance from the house of Astier de Villat, La Nuit. We've got another fragrance from Dominique Ropion. Man, he creates a lot of fragrances, doesn't it? Now, this to me is a very vintage take on Iris. And even though there's no mention of violet here, I do get a violet effect with this one. I feel like there's something in there that's giving me this kind of a violet iris combo. It has Turkish rose, patchouli, leather, ylang ylang, vetiver, and damask rose. So I'm getting a makeup effect with this one. It does have that kind of a vintage makeup powder effect. It's a really, really great fragrance, really wonderful take on an iris. But once again, just like L'Iris de Fat, it is definitely very vintage, so beware. I mean, if you're not into those kind of fragrances, stay away from this one, but I think it's such a wonderful fragrance. La Nuit from the house of Astier de Villat. Let me know if you're a fan of it. Put a comment down below. A few more fragrances. This next one's from the house of Angelo's Creations Olfactives. It's Irida Extrait, as you can see right here. Are you guys familiar with this house? Again, another vintage style take on iris, and it's super, super amazing. Definitely the vegetal qualities of the iris are really stand out here. They are in La Nuit as well, but it's more makeup-y there than it is here. I don't get the makeup-y effect with this one as much as I do with that one. But this is neroli, violets, violet leaves, orris butter, jasmine, cinnamon, sandalwood, amyris, vetiver, gaiac, ambrette for the muskiness. But you got to get your nose on this. This is so, so amazing. Done very, very nicely. I feel like iris can really be lent to a lot of classic style fragrances. And in fact, maybe that's what they did a lot of back in the old days. Because to me, this is very, very vintage. And I feel like I've, you know, bought some vintage fragrance somewhere and I'm smelling it for the first time. I had never smelled it before. That's the kind of experience I get with it. And I like that about this one because I enjoy my classic fragrances. And he did a great job on this fragrance. So this is Irida Extrait. Let me know if you're familiar with this house. From the house of Angelo's Creations Olfactives. And I am ending the list with this fragrance, this amazing, amazing fragrance that I'm obsessed with. This is Reine de Saba's Reine Makeda. A wonderful creation by Anne Flippo. It's cashmeran, orris root, ambrette, mandarin, jasmine, violet leaves, vanilla, rose, cedar, and musk. This fragrance wears so super sexy on me. I absolutely love it. And it's a musky take on floral notes, and I've always been mentioning that Anne Flippo, the perfumer of Reine Makeda, does really great things with white flowers, and she did an amazing job with this one. It's a lot of, you know, musky notes, as I said, and of course orris or iris, and then they have rose as well. But the way she blended this thing, it has great projection, smells amazing on me, and just really, really love wearing this one. So this is Reine Makeda from the house of Reine de Saba, and that's the last fragrance I'm talking about today. All right, guys, let me know what your thoughts are on these fragrances. Are you a fan of iris? Are you a fan of any of these? Is there anything else I should check out that you are a fan of that I did not speak about? Remember, I said these are more recent launches. So going back about 7 years, anything after that or, you know, before that, there's a lot. I mean, if you want to find out more about iris fragrances, you can catch some of my older videos where I mention some of the older fragrances. But this is what I felt like doing today, so more modern iris fragrances. But let me know what you're a fan of if I didn't mention it here. Put a comment down below. Either way, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please do list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook. And I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. And last but not least, don't forget to check out one of my favorite fragrances. I have been mentioning that in videos over and over again. It is one of the best iris fragrances. I just left it here as a bonus because it's an older release. It initially launched in 2014 and then it was brought back in 2020. Fantastic fragrance. One of the best iris fragrances. In fact, it's my favorite fragrance, as I said. This is Dior Homme Parfum. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.